Fuck Palestine! Palestine to my dick!
What do you think the response should be from Netanyahu and the military to Gaza?
Kill all Palestinians!
We're in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place.
Hello. So welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna still be talking about what's going on in Israel and Palestine. But in this video I'm gonna be talking more about the international reaction to what's been going on there. So I'll just start. So the fighting that has been going on in south of Lebanon, northern Israel, is still continuing with missile strikes in southern Lebanon, as well as missile strikes in Israel. Today, I haven't seen any reports of major strikes in Gaza, but I'm pretty sure that they're still going on, as well as there's a lot of escalation going on in the West Bank. With the skirmishes that were going on getting more intensified. Now, that was very concise and short, but that's because much hasn't really changed when we're talking about Hezbollah and Hamas fighting against Israel. Although there has been one thing that's happened recently that is noteworthy. Well, not recently, today, which is the airstrike that happened in Aleppo and Damascus that was done by the Israeli forces. Now, according to Israel, well, I actually forget if this was done, if this was reported by Israel, but the pretty much the reason that they did that was because the Iranian foreign minister was traveling to Syria, and because they struck in Damascus and Aleppo, they specifically striked at airports, and the Iranian foreign minister had to change their flight to redirect themselves to get into a safer spot. So that they tell us what the reasoning was for the strike, but this could also mean that Israel considers them possibly helping Hezbollah in some way. Now, we obviously don't know this, but it's reasonable to assume that Syria is obviously doing something in this conflict. Specifically, what they're doing, who knows? There have been reports that there has been a leader of a militia group in Syria who was in Lebanon discussing with Hezbollah about, well, we don't know what about, but we can infer what this was about, something that had to do with the operation that's going on in Israel. Now, what's important to understand is that same day, actually, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, arrived in Israel to give, and what he did was he gave statements. He was on a panel with Netanyahu, and now I really got a bit mad when I read what he said. Let me just pull this up here. 1 second. So I'll pull the video up now.
If you'll permit me, personal aside, I come before you not only as the United States Secretary of State, but also as a Jew.
Now, the reason that this video annoys me is that he says, so he obviously gives very, very, very heartfelt statement, he's there, U.S. is obviously, very much pro-Israel, and the one thing that really makes me mad in this video is how he says, as a Jew. Now, it shouldn't matter what you say after that, because it shouldn't matter what race or what religion or anything. Doesn't matter in the US who you are, what ties you have to that country with your race or ethnicity or whatever. Because that doesn't dictate your foreign policy. It shouldn't. It's irrelevant. That just like if I were to be in the U.S. and as an Armenian, and I started saying a bunch of bad stuff about I don't know, Turkey or Azerbaijan, uh, and I say as an Armenian this, then no one would like that. It shouldn't matter who I am. So this, and also in the statement, uh, well, not statement, uh, not sure it's called a statement, whatever. Uh, so you can here it really just shows how much of a like how black and white this is for the U.S. and also very much for uh the entirety of like the collective West, because they always just talk about how Hamas is just this terrorist group. Jews have to defend. Oh, sorry, Israelis have to defend themselves in any way possible. And if I can just, this is in Politico. The United States will stand firmly by Israel as the nation continues to strike back against militants in the Gaza Strip following the attack on Israeli soil over the weekend. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said during a press conference in Israel on Thursday. Since the Hamas militant group's surprise offensive that killed over 1,200 Israelis, Jerusalem has bombarded the Palestinian territory and cut off food, water, and medical supplies in retaliation. Which is true. Message that I bring to Israel is this: you may be strong enough on your own to defend yourself, but as long as America exists, you will never ever have to. Blinken said while standing alongside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, um, again, the whenever you just look at the very pro-Western media, when discussing this conflict, well, not only media as well as politicians and people, they're very black and white. It In their eyes, Israel is the saint who has done nothing and is only defending themselves, while Hamas is the nasty terrorist group, militant group, who, because of that, they need to level Gaza to the ground. Now, in reality land, both sides have been doing very nasty stuff. Both sides are at fault for many things. Um, Israel, I mean, if you say that Israel must defend themselves with any means necessary, does that mean leveling Gaza to the ground, killing every Palestinian who lives there? No, it shouldn't mean that. But in crazy land, I guess that's what that means. That's what that means. I don't know what to say. And everyone in the West, really, they're very pro-Israel and they're very much against Palestine. Not even just like, you know, uh, well, we want Israel to win this conflict, but we condemn any deaths or war crimes or whatever. No, they just see it black and white. Israel, good people, Palestinians, bad people. When there's in the world, there's more nuance. It's just more nuanced than that. It's never just good, bad. In this case, especially because both sides have been doing very nasty things against each other. So, the one issue with this is that the it's just a lot of radicalization in black and white that's going on in the West, and the thing that makes this interesting is that the entirety of the West, well, as in like all countries that are very closely associated with the U.S., um, they've never really like been able to just agree entirely 100% on a conflict. Because, for example, this is very much different from what's happening in Ukraine, since uh, there are many people who are opposed to the war in Ukraine. Many people, countries such as Orban in Hungary, as well as Trump. Many people who are against. Those are just some the most known prime examples, you know. But in this conflict, and I'm not saying without reason. There's obviously reason, but uh, they all agree that they will support Israel unconditionally, and this is just something that the Ukraine conflict hasn't been able to do. Now, uh, speaking of Ukraine, you know, Zelensky is obviously freaking out about this. You know, his conflict um, after the just humiliation that was the summer counteroffensive that was supposed to go all the way to Crimea and now barely got to like it barely took over just like a couple settlements. You know, not even made it all the way to Tokmak. After that, after the kind of just preparation for the winter, a new conflict emerges, and now this is getting more media report than Ukraine is. And Zelensky is very scared, and he knows that the West and specifically the U.S. they're going to be turning their eyes to supporting Israel now. Just before the conflict started in Grenada, the European Union stressed that you know the European Union can't support Ukraine alone. They need the U.S. to support Ukraine as well. And it's very interesting that right after that there's a conflict that began. I'm not saying that they have anything related to with each other. I'm just saying it's very interesting that right after they say that, you know, there's a conflict that's begun in an area that the U.S. is very interested in, the Middle East, specifically in Israel. So they're going to be turning their attention to that, and the Ukraine is going to be on the sidelines. Now, what this means is that this, we could say, is like the beginning of the end of the conflict in Ukraine. It's really hard to say what will actually be the thing that ends the conflict in Ukraine. Maybe Zelensky finally says, you know what, there's no hope. I should go to Russia and ask for peace. Maybe the Western countries, well, in this case specifically the U.S., has to be the ones to tell Zelensky, "Hey, go make a peace plan because your stuff isn't working. We can't pay for this anymore. Now we have something else to worry about, or just something else. Who knows?" But either way, we could say that this is the beginning of the end in the for the conflict in Ukraine, and the end might take a couple months, maybe even a year. Well, now with the new goals set by Russia, where they want everything west of the Dnieper, and as well as Odessa to be part of Russia, that's their goal. Now, if they will get to that goal or not, we can't say, but they're obviously wanting to get all of that land. And now, actually, a good transition to Russia. Russia has been very careful talking about this conflict. They've always have had relations with both Palestine and Israel, but um, the there was a conference between Erdogan, the president of Turkey, and Putin, and this is the only place where we can like really clearly see how Russia views what's going on right now. And from the from that, we understand that. So Russia says that the that as I said in the last video, them and China are the countries who want, there to be diplomacy. They don't want any war. Um, but Russia says that the reasoning for this conflict that started just now and as well has not been solved is because uh, the U.S. failed in diplomatic talks and with uh, international systems, with the UN saying Palestine has to be its own country now for the Palestinians, no, their own nation for the Palestinians, the UN resolution for the Palestinians, and that the resolution hasn't been upholded, and they blame the U.S. for this. And in this statement, we can infer that the Russians are being less favorable to the Israelis and more favorable to the Palestinians, since the Israelis, their goal is the complete elimination of Palestine from what they see as their territory. And with Putin saying this, that basically the saying that the UN resolution should have been upheld, to which Palestine has to be its own nation state, that shows how Russia is. Uh, it this doesn't mean that they're completely going against Israel, but this shows how they view this entire conflict. They see it as um, from a more pro Arabian viewpoint instead of the viewpoints that the other countries in Europe and the US are seeing this. So, yeah, that's it. Uh, hope you got something out of that, and as always, do not forget to condemn war crimes. Doesn't matter who does it, doesn't matter what it is. If it's happened, it needs to be condemned. All right, bye bye.